Metallica's James Hetfield on Raiders move to Vegas. I'm a little pissed. Then he goes in and talks about the money aspect of this deal. He doesn't go into details, but people keep on bringing up money as if that was the motivation for the Raiders to leave. Yes, they didn't have enough money to build their own stadium in Oakland. The league wasn't helping them. The reason the Raiders are moving to Las Vegas is not because they decided that this was the only place they could go. Well, it was, but they were being forced out of California. I mean, we need a little history lesson here. Before the Raiders moved back to Oakland, when they were in L.A., Al Davis was going to create a stadium there. He had a stadium deal in place, and he was going to build at the time, a state-of-the-art stadium. But the league said, no, you got to take on a tenant. And the tenant would have been the team that becomes the Texans that wound up in Houston. He said no to that, and not long after, was it 1995, I think it was, they moved back to Oakland. Oakland built Mount Davis that is covered up, and also all the other problems that come afterwards. And it continues to linger on. They're playing on a baseball field. And so they want a stadium deal. I think Mark Davis really would settle for Oakland, staying there. He would have definitely settled for Los Angeles or outside of Los Angeles, Carson City. But he wasn't allowed to, because there was all this mechanism going on behind the scenes. He didn't have the money. He wasn't running the show. He tried to hook up with another owner, Dean Spanos, and they were going to both move to Carson City, California, outside of LA, and build a stadium there. Now, ironically, their competition, or his competition, was Stan Kroenke, the Rams owner. St. Louis, a big middle of the country city, and they can't attract a fan base. I call bull to that. And they have a fairly new stadium. It wasn't that old. Wasn't it like in the 90s or something? So all of a sudden the league lets this owner, this multi-billionaire owner, he married into billions. He married a Walton. That's Walmart. He married a Walton. And that allowed him to tell the other owners what to do. This is where I'm going. I'm going to LA. And he had all the money in the world, so he could get his little minions to create a incredible looking display and presentation. And what was really going on at those owner meetings a year ago and change was a conspiracy between Jerry Jones, Dean Spanos, Stan Kroenke in particular, and the rest of the owners against Mark Davis. Mark Davis is like the red-headed stepchild. He might even be the red-headed stepchild. And that's how they treated him. I remember it was, what was it, Jerry Jones, nothing was going on with the progress. So Jerry Jones busted out the liquor, and right after that, they decided that Kroenke would go, the Rams would go to LA and take on a tenant. And the tenant would be are the one of two teams. Either San Diego or the Raiders. Not the Raiders and then San Diego. I know San Diego played in... the Chargers played in L.A. before. But let's face it. They couldn't even sell out their own stadium in San Diego. Do you remember the last Raider game there? Their 9th home game of the year? Yeah. And just imagine what it's going to be like where they're going to be playing in a little soccer stadium with 30,000 people in L.A. No, is it L.A. or is it outside? I don't know where it is, actually. But it's, I saw it, and it's very small. Extremely small, and it's closer to populations who are largely Raider fan based. I'm sure Stan Kroenke was pissed off. Totally pissed off last year when one of those alphabet networks got permission from the league to broadcast the Raider game instead of the Rams game. I'm sure Dean Spanos was also pissed that at that game, there was supposed to be a Chargers home game, it's full of Raider fans. California is Raiderville. Make no mistake about it. And there's Raider fans everywhere. It just happens to be the largest concentration will be in California. And so a little conspiracy was made. Oh, now I remember. Dean Spanos, where he's going to have the Chargers play next year, is in Carson City, near where Mark Davis and him were supposed to have some sort of agreement. But they allow the Chargers first dibs. They have the money. They actually have the money to build a stadium. Mark Davis didn't. And at one point, Mark Davis was threatening to go to San Antonio. They might have to play in San Antonio, though. Because the town of Oakland, the city of Oakland, is showing their colors now, and they're saying they want nothing to do with the Raiders anymore. They want them out. They got a lease till through 2018, but after that, they want them out. So are they going to play in a little stadium in Las Vegas? Or they're going to move to some other stadium in another state? Should be real interesting. I mean, just watch Jerry Jones, just how much he supported it, and some of the other owners like Rob Kraft, how they support the Raiders moving to Vegas, gambling, football. Even though, go to the website, go to NFL.com, go to any major sport website, official website, and you will see this word fantasy everywhere. Fantasy this, fantasy that. And what is fantasy? It is synonymous with gambling. That's what it means. Fantasy is gambling. And so, the league has always been fine with gambling. It's been a huge part of it. And I would say the referees work for Vegas, you know? When they go under the hood, they're talking to Vegas. It's way more corrupt in college football. Shaving points and all that stuff. There's a lot of money being made on gambling. But there is some other, truth behind that. Mark Davis might be trying to follow in his father's footsteps. Father once said he wanted to move to move to Vegas. And so that's part of it. I know if he had any city to choose from, he might chose that because it puts the NFL on the spot. They've already denied him with collusion in LA, which, I mean, if you really wanted to push the issue, I think he could have sued, take it to the Supreme Court, and the Raiders would move to LA, and the other two franchises would flop. They would flop. They would have no fans. And that's how it would be. But it's not. It's not money in the sense the Raiders are moving to Vegas because to make money. I have no idea what the deal actually looks like on paper for Mark Davis. I'm sure he's going to make money off of it. He has to pay off a $700 million loan or something, and a $500 million. I don't know what it was. Bank of America. It's a large amount, but they're going to pay that off very fast because the Raiders are going to be worth a lot of money after they move out there. But he's not going out there to make money per se. He's going out there because he's being forced out of California. There was an article I mentioned, part of it last year, where they talked about how the Raiders were just killing the Rams and San Diego and the 49ers in ratings. Yeah. Partly has to do with creating a better product. I mean, remember the Raiders, they spent about 10 years or more just floundering like some of these other teams, the Cleveland Browns, just lose forever. And now that they've got back, they've always been known to attract many fans. I mean, most successful teams, their fan base is largely made up of fair weather fans or bandwagon fans. It's how it works. I mean, even music is made up. Most of the people who like Metallica or any band, they mostly like them because other people like them, and they're trying to, peer pressure gets them into it, and they want to go along with the crowd. The sheep mentality. And Raider fans are no different. I don't care what anyone says. Raider Nation, we're all one, blah, blah, blah. No. People are different, and everyone's individual, and some people may act like that, but usually the ones that are most cheerleaderish and won't say anything bad about the Raiders, they're not really fans. They're bandwagon fans. I do believe. You have the right to criticize a team, especially with some of the things they've done over the years. But moving to Las Vegas, I wouldn't criticize them with that. I see it as they're being forced. And where else are they going to play? The league was not going to allow them to move to San Antonio because of Jerry Jones and the power he wields. It's the richest franchise. Mark Davis's father wasn't allowed to move to LA. Move to a new stadium in LA. I think he would have had a battle, though. Mark Davis would have a stronger battle. As I mentioned, collusion. To believe it was collusion between Dean Spanos, Stan Kroenke, and other conspirators to force the Raiders out. Ultimately, they would like one of their kind to own the Raiders. A corporate piece of you-know-what. Mark Davis is not like that. He hangs out at Hooters. But this has nothing to do with money. This has to do with business and being forced out of town. They're being forced out of town. Sheriff has come and he said, leave town before dusk. And that's what's happening. We want to talk about money. We can bring up the subject of Napster and just how the Metallica, well, they meant well to protect their rights and stuff like that. I think it partially destroyed the entire music industry, which has been destroyed for a while now. Because it's always been fake. But everything's fake. Even football's fake to a certain degree. But it's entertainment. That's all it is. It's diversion. And there is business. There's a business side to it. But it's not always money motivated. Mark Davis didn't have enough money to build his own stadium where he wanted to. He didn't have enough money to wield and push his weight around in the room, the 32 Club. So, he was forced out of town. This is a conspiracy, nothing else. There's collusion between owners trying to help their kind of people out. Don't even buy into what Jerry Jones says when he starts talking nostalgically about Al Davis. BS. He's helping out his bum buddies, Dean Spanos and Stan Kroenke, so they can have a market because they can't do it on their own because their franchises suck. Period.